What's up, everyone? So I've been reading a lot of college essays just because a lot of my cousins are applying to college now, and I just had to get this video out there because I just want to put out some general tips that I think can be very helpful for anyone just writing any type of essay, and hopefully it'll be helpful. So today, 5 tips for college application. So side note, even though this is for college applications, these are actually tips that I think you can include across all domains of writing, so I encourage you to do that. All right, so tip number 1, when you're writing anything that's a story and you're writing about an experience, whatever it is, you want to use active voice, not passive voice. Active voice is when the subject of the sentence is actively doing an action, and passive voice is when the subject is getting the action done on him or her, or whatever the object of the sentence is. For example, I can say, the ball was hit by me, or I can say, I hit the ball. I can say, the proposal was endorsed by the committee, or I can say the committee endorsed the proposal. You'll see that in every case, the active voice just tends to be a bit more engaging. So in that previous example, when I say the committee endorsed the proposal, that's active voice. If I say the proposal was endorsed by the committee, that's passive voice. For multiple reasons, I tend to prefer using active voice when you're writing about an experience because it really captures the reader's attention and it makes it more exciting to read. Also, another reason why I prefer active voice is because active voice also tends to be more brief. For example, when I say the committee endorsed the proposal, that's like four words. I don't know how many words that is, but it's definitely shorter than the proposal was endorsed by the committee, okay? And in a lot of these college essays, word limit is a big deal. So by using active voice, you'll not only prevent that, but you also make it more engaging to read. A good summary of this is to minimize passive voice, you want to try to minimize your use of the verb to be. That includes things like I am, you are, they were, they are. All of those were, am, are, is, are conjugations of the verb to be. And you want to minimize that to minimize passive voice. So again, the books were placed on the table by me. The fact that were is in there implies that it's passive voice. But now if I say, I placed the books on the table, there is no usage of that to be verb anymore, which implies it's active voice. And that's also a great way for you to kind of get in your head what the difference between active and passive voice is. So again, use active voice. It really helps. It keeps me engaged and it's more brief, which is really good. Tip number 2. This is a very easy tip and it ties into the previous one. A lot of students who are applying to college anywhere think that it's important to try to make yourself look sophisticated by using big words and big sentences. False. Try to be brief. Get to the point and respect the fact that you do not want to try to make yourself seem more complicated than you are. There's a lot of reasons for this. For one thing, the people who are reading your applications essays are going to be reading hundreds of thousands potentially, okay? And they're reading so many that you saying a long, complicated sentence is not going to mean anything because it's just going to waste their time. So honestly, when I'm reading a lot of these essays, that actually is one of my pet peeves too, when there's a really long sentence where I'm like, why did you say it in that way when you could have just said it in this way? So you want to minimize your sentences, you want to minimize your usage of words. So this is also really helpful because some of these essays have a word limit. So by being concise and brief, you're going to limit your word usage and also obviously give yourself time to talk more about more substantive things. So I can give so many examples of this. And if you honestly gave me a sentence, I could figure out a way to spit that sentence back out in a more concise way. And at least in med school, in high school, whatever it is, you'd actually be surprised. Moving forward, brevity is your best friend. Do not try to use complicated words you do not know. Do not use excess words that you don't need, and try to keep things brief. Honestly, I respect it when I can read an essay and it ends early and I'm like, wow, at least you got to the point. The thing I hate the most is when people use up the whole word limit and I'm like, there's so much extra stuff in there and you just wasted my time and the editor's time. Whoever's editing it, whoever's reading your essay, you want to respect their time. If you're trying to say something in a paragraph that can be said in a sentence, that's not very respectful for whoever's reading it, you know? And that's something that a lot of these admissions people, I'm sure, will pick up on. If you're saying things and you make this big elaborate point, but it takes you 3 paragraphs to make that point, they're going to be a little annoyed because they've read hundreds of these essays and they probably see that all the time. So try to be brief and try to be concise because conciseness is your friend. By no means am I discrediting the value of experiences here. So if you're trying to describe something, go ahead and describe it, but describe it in a way that's succinct and to the point. You can say that this meant a lot to me because of this and this and this, but if you are saying the same thing over and over again, hammering the point away, it's just not, not a good use of your time. All right, tip number 3. And this is actually probably one of the most important tips, and it ties into the previous one, which was to be concise. So I'm going to read some of the prompts that colleges have out right now, and I just want to show you guys what you need to do. Okay, so one of the prompts is every person has a creative side, and it can be expressed in many ways. Problem solving and original innovative thinking, artistically, whatever. Describe how you express your creative side. So there will be prompts like this all the time. And almost 80% of the time when I read an essay, sometimes people don't even answer the prompt. So here is a very, very easy fix. When there is a prompt like this, and this is something that I still do to this day, you want to start your essay, or in your essay somewhere in the first paragraph, have a sentence that directly answers the prompt. So if the prompt is how are you creative, or in this one is describe how you express your creative side, I want to see a sentence in your writing that says I express my creative side by blank. It is really that simple. And I think this is something that gets so confused, and I promise you I did the same thing when I was in high school, and I still did it in college. And I realized in college, just say what you need to say. Like if the prompt is, how are you amazing? You can write, I am amazing because. If the prompt is, how is this pen standing up? You can say, the pen is standing up because. You don't have to take me through this elaborate 3-paragraph scheme and expect me to figure out what you think about this pen. You can just say it in a sentence. And a lot of people think, no, I want to be like intricate. No, please don't be intricate. Be as brief and as concise and as possible. I will respect an essay where I can say like, oh, at least you said you're creative because of X, Y, and Z in a sentence, as opposed to someone who said, oh, the point of this essay was the fact that I wanted to show you through these experiences, like this is how I was creative. I was like, you can't expect me to piece those together unless you're a brilliant author. So I strongly recommend that in the first paragraph somewhere, you say, I'm creative because of this. And you might think I'm bullshitting, and I'm really not, because on my med school essays, one of the prompts is literally, why do you want to be a doctor? And that's the prompt. And believe it or not, my thesis for my essay was, I want to be a doctor because X, Y, and Z. A lot of the people reading it appreciated it because they're like, okay, I get it. This is why you want to be it. Now in the next few paragraphs, at least now you can show me why these reasons are your reasons. I think the general gist of this is you want to make it as easy for the reader to get into your mind as possible. That includes being brief. That includes answering the prompt right away. That includes using terminology in the right context. Do not do what I did when I was in high school and go through the thesaurus and try to find more complicated words to make yourself seem cooler. If you're Prerak, the guy who has an 8th grade vocabulary in 12th grade, then be Prerak. That's fine with me. Like, I realize now I should have just said things openly. And a lot of my essays, when I go back and read my college essays, I'm just like, oh my God, I don't even know what I'm saying. Like, I'm reading it now and I'm the same person who wrote it and I have no idea what it means. How did I expect the admissions officer to know what that meant? You know? So again, be concise, be brief, don't use crazy words, and I promise you that will already help your essay. Use active voice. So that's all we've gotten. So tip 4 is kind of piggybacking off of tip 3, and it's exactly what I just said. Do not use things that are not in your vocabulary. And I did this again, and sometimes when I see someone use a word and it's not used in the right context, right away I can tell that right away I can tell that the person is clearly trying to make themselves seem more complicated or more like intelligent. And that's something that you don't really want to do, because for one thing, it kind of implies that you want to make yourself seem more cool, when in reality, you're probably cool just the way you are, okay? And the college essay is intended to show people who you are. And if you're not being who you are and you're trying to be this elaborate, complicated, amazing person, or like what you think is amazing, then you're kind of deceiving the whole point of the essay in the first place, which is to showcase yourself. So use words that you know how to use and use them properly. And if you want to use a word, then try to like ask someone how you would use it properly, and don't just assume like this is how you would use it, which is what I would do. So that's just tip number 4. And then tip 5 is probably, I should probably save the best for last, is to show me. Do not tell me things. Show me in your writing things. A lot of people will say, over summer, I became really interested in bioinformatics because I did an internship at Genentech. That's not showing me anything. You just said like, oh, I became a better person because of this. And I think I've actually talked about this before. My med school classmate Yakov and I actually did this general seminar about med school applications, and we actually gave the same advice. You want to show people, you want to not tell people. So for example, you can say, over summer, I spent my time teaching little kids and I learned a lot and became a stronger leader. That's one way of doing it. Or you can say, over summer, I spent my time teaching fourth grade students. One day, I actually got to teach the water cycle to someone, and they felt so fascinated by it that they kept asking more and more questions, and I felt fascinated by the fact that I could inspire them to go into this field that previously they had known nothing about. Because in that experience, that particular encounter, you're showing me what you felt in that moment instead of telling me. You're showing me that you created this bond with someone that you previously did not have, and it made you feel warm and tingly inside. Instead of just saying I felt warm and tingly inside, you took me through that experience, and because of that, I empathize with you more. This is a very human thing. Okay, if I was talking to you, when we talk to each other, you don't just say, I had a good time playing basketball. You would say, dude, I played basketball and it was crazy. I crossed this guy up and right there he fell on the ground and everyone thought it was crazy and I took a three-pointer and made it and it was the best. By describing that experience, I know that that's not an essay, but even in your day-to-day conversations, the fact is we talk in that manner because we learn to empathize with each other in that manner. I empathize with people because they're descriptive and they tell me what happened and I'm like, oh, that sounds cool. But if you just said, I played basketball and I had fun, I'm like, cool, that's awesome. I don't care that much. But if you say, I played basketball and I crossed this guy up, I went behind the back, he fell on the ground, I faded away, three-pointer, buzzer beater in, I'd be like, oh my God, that's awesome. Because I can empathize with that. I can see exactly how you felt at each moment, and that makes me feel like I'm really there with you. My last tip, hopefully those 5 tips were helpful. I'm just saying this because, again, I edited a bunch of essays recently, and these were just some things that came to mind. These are actually 5 tangible tips that I'm consistently working on and I actually incorporate into my writing, and I think it's made a really, really big impact. You can actually ask my 6th grade teacher how bad my writing was, and then you could ask my college professor who I took a class with, and she actually thought my writing was like really good. And that was actually me picking up a lot of these small skills along the way. So hopefully you guys enjoyed that video. If you did, drop a like, comment, share, and subscribe. Hopefully you found this to be helpful. And aside from that, thanks guys for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Peace!